Conference because we believe defined benefit pension plans should be protected in this province. CUPE believes defined benefit pension plans are the best and most effective way to protect a decent, secure, predictable retirement income for workers in New Brunswick. We also recognize the value of what is known today as the New Brunswick Shared Risk Pension Plan. In fact, a large number of our members, the members of CUPE 1252, the hospital workers, and the employees of the City of St. John have converted to that model. They did so because their pension plan was significantly underfunded due to various factors: the recession, underfunding by the employer, and contribution holidays in the case of the hospital workers. The New Brunswick model was an appropriate measure response to very specific pension issues. It was an innovative way created through cooperation and dialogue to preserve some pension benefits for healthcare workers and municipal workers. CUPE, however, made it perfectly clear to the Alward government this was not a one-size-fits-all fix for tackling short-term pension challenges. We all agree on one point: pensions are complex. The New Brunswick proposal would be a profound and fundamental shift for the public service superannuation pension plan. CUPE members and all other participants of the PSSA have many perfectly legitimate questions on why we are opposed to the conversion of the PSSA to the shared risk model. First, we believe this conversion would benefit the government at the expense of members and retirees. For the government, this conversion would mean lower costs, effectively eliminating go-forward risk, and shedding a significant amount of the government's existing pension liability. For the active members, we believe the shared risk model would raise costs, significantly increase risks, particularly for newer and younger workers, retirement age increases for future service, and basic pension formula reduced for future service. It would also mean increased risk for retirees. Any pension plan should be fair for everyone: future members, active members, and retirees. The status quo might not be an option for the PSSA, but the conversion to the PSSA to a shared risk model is not the solution. We recognize that some changes to the plan may be needed to keep the plan affordable and sustainable for all parties, while still delivering adequate and secured defined benefit pensions. We need to find options that don't transfer all the risk onto workers and retirees. Increases to member contribution rates, smaller reductions to pension benefit levels, future integration with CPP if CPP is expanded, and moving to a joint sponsored framework are all possible elements of an alternative solution that CUPE is prepared to explore with government. As you all know, CPP expansion has widespread support, but the New Brunswick government seems to be towing the CFIB line. We are concerned that the New Brunswick government started to waver on its previous support for CPP expansion. They appear now to be standing in the way of improving retirement security for all workers from coast to coast to coast. All projections show that if we don't do something like CPP expansion, that future generations are looking at real steep reduction in standards of living in retirement. The real crisis is a lack of pension coverage. The New Brunswick government should not keep standing in the way of the reform that really matters, and a reform that would help to take pressure off the provincial plans like the PSSA going forward. Today, we too are asking the government to stop its present process and take into consideration the preoccupations of all stakeholders and the solution we are proposing. Thank you.
Maintenant, notre dernier orateur est M. Bernard Dussault, qui est anciennement l'actuaire en chef pour le régime de pension du Canada et travaille présentement avec l'Institut professionnel de la fonction publique du Canada. While Bernard Dussault is currently working full-time as a pension and benefits officer for the Professional Institute of Public Service of Canada, he is also involved from time to time in private actuarial consulting contracts. Bernard became an actuary in 1974 and held the position of chief actuary not only for the life insurance company of Les Prévoyants du Canada from 1976 to 1981, but also for the Canadian government from 1992 to 1998 in respect of the Canadian Pension Plan, the Old Age Security Program, and the 5 major pension plans covering the federal public service, members of parliament, judges, public service, Canadian Forces, and the RCMP. Monsieur Bernard Dussault, s'il vous plaît.
Bonjour, everybody. Pension plans are like our own personal health. The financial status of a pension plan is subject to a lot of volatility, and pension plans are expensive. This is like our own each individual health here. So from time to time, we have to go to see a doctor for a checkup, and hopefully there's no problem, and if there's a problem, a diagnostic must be well determined and a proper medication prescribed. So in this respect, regarding the New Brunswick Public Service Superannuation Plan, half of the job was done. This half consists of the actual report that was tabled recently by the actuaries of the government, Marno Sobeco. This report is as at April 2012. It's quite recent, and it's a well-done report, very professionally. You can count on that. So this report just tells us that there's volatility, and currently the pension plan has a financial problem. And the government has worked very expeditively in a solution, and not at all in the same manner as I've used to work. In the mid-90s, the Canada Pension Plan was having much bigger problem than the New Brunswick PSSA. This was revealed by my diagnostic in 1994 that the plan would cost ultimately 14% if nothing would be done. And then Premier Jean Chrétien said, I don't want this plan to cost more than 10%. Go to 9.9. So that was the objective he gave to the Minister of Finance. Minister of Finance worked 2 years on that, not 6 months, 2 years. He could have arrived with a solution in 6 months, but it took 2 years to arrive with a simple solution, not a complex solution, a simple one. The solution was very simple because the Canada Pension Plan Reform 1998 is still in place. It works. It's very simple. The contribution rate is 9.9%. Some benefits were reduced, and the 3 aspects of the financial governance of the plans were changed. So the emphasis was given to the financial structure, architecture of the plan. So what was done with the PSSA after the diagnostic came out recently on the PSSA? The government arrived with a solution that is, as well said Gary, complex. It's complex, and it's not even a local solution. The solution is borrowed from what they are doing in Holland, the Netherlands, the Dutch system. This is a virus that we don't want to spread all across Canada. There are main aspects in the solution proposed that are complex and inappropriate, but the main one is conditional indexing. This is a much perverse accounting device whereby you are still paying for indexation, but if ever the financial experience of the plan doesn't go too well, which will happen because it will always be subject to fluctuations, then rather than amortizing the deficit or increasing the contributions, we will make indexation, we will put it on the shelf for a while, and this will not affect only existing pensioners, but also actual members, because in the plan, there is a provision whereby the pension benefit when you retire will be based on the indexation that has occurred since you started working. So because indexation would be conditional on the pension plan experience, if it's not good when you retire, your pension will not be that good. Indexation is not a benefit. It's a way of paying the benefit. It is fully consistent with the defined benefit concept of this pension plan. So it should not be conditional. There are other ways to deal with the financial problem of the PSSA. Another part of the proposed plan, which almost makes sense because it relates to longevity, I commend the actuaries who prepared the report because they found something that someone has never reported so far. Everybody knew it, but was waiting until someone would make the first step. It's been discovered quite recently by the Canadian Institute of Actuaries that mortality is improving, or, excuse me, longevity is improving more than ever expected. Longevity improvements have been around for a long time. It's accounted for in actual reports. But the Canadian Institute of Actuaries study shows that improvements are more than we ever thought before. So something has to be done with the age of entitlement for a non-reduced pension. So there is something in that respect in the government proposed plan, which is to suddenly increase by 5 years from 60 to 65 the age of entitlement. This is not fair because those who benefit more from longevity are not current pensioners, and it's not all active members. It's the youngest people. Okay, those who were born more recently will live longer than those who were born 20 to 30. So there is a way to account for higher longevity, a better way, which is more fair, fairer, and respects intra and intergenerational equity. How would that work? Is that rather than increasing by 5 years the age of entitlement for everybody, it should be based on calendar year of birth, and those who were born more recently should have a higher entitlement age than those who were born in previous years. So I could say a lot about the proposed changes. I referred to two once, but I have a last point to make to you. You know, when you make a diagnostic, and a good diagnostic was made, you have to arrive with a prescribed medication. We have a prescribed medication. One of its deficiencies, not only is it complex, the minister does not even understand it itself, but normally, professionally speaking, financially speaking, when you have a medication, it should be based on some valid grounds. I don't know if the government has asked its actuaries to produce a report on the effect of its medication, but we've asked for it, and you know what we were told? Well, that's not relevant. What an irresponsible answer. I've never seen that in my career. When you propose a medication, you should have grounds to show that it is valid. So we are still waiting for that, and I doubt that it would be valid because in the proposal, benefits are decreased, indexation is not guaranteed, and contribution rates are increased. So, what the government calls risk sharing is more risk dumping. I cannot speak on behalf of active members because I did not talk to all of them, but I sense that they are willing to share the cost with the government, but not to take 90% of the risk. Share the cost means 50% on a 50-50 basis, and it also means if ever there's a surplus or a deficit, we are ready and we want to share that, not only the surpluses, but also the deficit. And this is an approach that was proposed in 1992 by the Canadian Institute of Actuaries, but it went nowhere. But with this approach, all the volatility of costs would be so much reduced, and a solution that fits all plan, it does not really exist, but this is very close to, as close as can be to a solution like that. So that's the main points I had to make to you this morning. Merci beaucoup de votre attention.
As a famous lawyer from Toronto and chair of the provincial task force, the biggest problem with the PSSA is you old buggers just don't want to die. That's apparently a professional analysis. I was rather surprised. Maintenant, je vais modérer une période de questions-réponses et nous demandons aux médias, if the media would like to ask questions, to please do so. And since you don't have a microphone, don't ask your question too fast. Speak slow like I do. And I will repeat the question, and that way it'll be recorded. So the media, please. Monsieur Dussault a un micro à sa disposition. The question has been asked, what does Mr. Dussault doesn't like in regards to the shared risk pension plan? And Monsieur Dussault, would you please reply?
Oui, je m'excuse d'avoir parlé seulement en anglais. Je savais qu'on aurait la chance de parler en français après coup. Il y a plusieurs